Hello everyone! I hope you're all doing well. Thanks to everyone who joined our Discord server and voted for which run we do next. This one goes out to you. So I've been playing Salt and Sanctuary for a while now, and I've beaten it almost every simple way I can think of. I've used only one type of weapon, done the in-game challenge runs, and even beat the game by not playing. We don't talk about that one though. However, one simple adjustment that I've never tried, until now, is removing the rolling mechanic. Such a simple change. Just don't roll. Well, I hear you ask, how different can that make the game? Surely it's not that much different. Yes it is. Anyone who's played Salt and Sanctuary knows that the rolling mechanic is imperative to the gameplay. Want to get somewhere faster? Roll. Tough enemy ahead? Roll. In the middle of a boss fight and they won't stop hitting you? Why won't they stop hitting you? You get the idea. But what happens when you take away that mechanic? What changes? Well, quite a lot actually. But before we get into that, let's go over the rules. First, I can't roll. Ever. No using rolling to move faster, no using rolling in combat, nothing. Second, no glitches or exploits. The challenge isn't a challenge if you can just long jump your way to victory. And third, everything else is allowed. Build like you want to build, fight like you want to fight. You'll want to pick a build you're comfortable with. Trust me on that one. And that's about it. There's a lot of interesting gameplay changes that are going to come about because of our fear of somersaults, but I think it's more fun if I show you rather than tell you. So with that short preamble out of the way, let's get started. First off, the name. Yeah, that. You'll see why in a minute. As for the class, I'm going Paladin. The starting shields are all pretty awful, but if we're going to stand any chance against the deep, we need something with 100% strike resistance. Hopefully this works. Before we press on though, let's make sure we can't accidentally cheat by changing our controls. Press F to pay respects. Alright, so the deep. Our first test. Let's see how this goes. Well, okay, we were able to block. Ooh, yeah, stamina really isn't a thing yet, is it? Okay, well, lessons learned. After picking the 3, we can see why we named our character the way we did. I already miss rolling. Anyway, let's take out our frustrations on the Sodden Knight. Huh, pumpkin meta really is starting to be a thing. That's weird. Anyway, with Sodden, we can start to see the problem we'll likely be running into the entire run. We can't roll away or get around bosses. This means that bosses are almost more than likely going to push us into corners and wail on us until we die. So that sounds fun. The good news, though, is that sometimes their attacks can glitch us through their bodies, giving us an out. It's not terribly consistent, though, and it only works for some attacks, so it's not going to save us every time. Our true salvation is going to be shields for once. That felt weird to say. Anyway, we make our way down to the Village of Smiles and run into another problem. I can't just roll past enemies. I don't have to fight everything, but I can't get around bigger enemies like the Bronze Knight, and enemies with a larger aggro range are also going to be a problem. No outrolling horsemen today, unfortunately. Before we go to the Queen, we stock up. I get myself a shield that blocks both slash and strike, so that's helpful, and I grab a dagger just in case I need to kickflip across a gap or two. Then we grab the roll ring so we can... Oh yeah. Anyway, on to the Queen. She's a prime example of sliding through the bosses, as her rage attack pushes us right through if we can successfully block. So long as we mind our stamina, we'll be fine. Moving on to the Alchemist though, and we're already hitting a snag. He never attacks us directly, so we have to wait for him to jump around to get past him sometimes. And his attacks are all elemental, which we really don't have a shield for yet. So, desperate, I use a strategy that I really hope I won't have to use too many times in this run. I go full throttle. Buff the weapon, use a great sword, forget defense, and just go, go, go. He wises up pretty quick, and it gets pretty dicey there for a minute, but our greed wins out eventually. Not even close. Anyway, we take the shortcut down to... Oh. I guess I need to roll in order to get off that fast enough. Okay, that's new. So we're gonna take the normal way down to the Cyclops next. It's nothing special. Now that I've pumped enough points into stamina, there's not much you can do about our defense. We just have to time our attacks right, and he falls. Sadly, the same can be said about the Jester. Nothing interesting there, aside from the fact that he's super aggressive. Before we get to the Worm, we're going to want to quickly nab the Phoenix Rondash, so that his flame attacks aren't going to be an issue. And with the power of a buffed Warhammer and some careful maneuvering, we knock the Worm out of the sky pretty quickly. Easy. On to the Dome. Before we push forward, we're at the point where the bosses are starting to get pretty beefy. Best to upgrade our weapons before moving on. The enemies aren't too bad, though I'm reminded yet again that I normally spend all of a minute in this place, and now I have to spend at least 5 killing all the enemies following me around. The Inquisitor isn't too bad, so long as you time your attacks. He hits hard, but once you've got the pattern, you're fine. The Lamb, however, is a different story. The first time I fought him was basically a test run. The lightning damage is pretty rough, and his second phase increases the amount of nonsense we have to deal with. Unfortunately, none of our shields are good enough to take on all the damage types this guy is throwing at us. Second try, I remember that I can use rings and put on the Golden Stone ring, and then decide to go full out offense. It almost works, but we're still not quite there. Combination of the two should just about do it. Or not. Okay, grinding it is. So the nice thing about the dome is that it has a few shields that you can transmute with the right items. And it just so happens that they block almost 100% lightning damage. So bada bing, bada boom, third lamb, go to your room. Heading up to the Dried King, we've got a problem. Most of the enemies have hit their growth spurt. Now, there's no way to accidentally jump over them or hope they brush on past. Even if you can duck past them with a lucky block, they still outpace us and will gladly chase us to the end of the earth. So be prepared for some tough fights. The Dried King himself isn't much of an issue. With the Phoenix Rondash in hand, you can block the majority of his damage, and combined with the uppercut attack from the Warhammer, you can stun lock him so long as you have the stamina for it. Mix and match, and you've got yourself a win. Before we tackle the Prince, I think it's about time we got ourselves a Jaws of Death. Funny story though, when I removed the ability to roll, I also accidentally removed the ability to double jump. They are on the same button, so I guess that makes sense. Minor details. Dagger kickflip solves that problem. After a quick grind, we get what we need and make our scissors. When we finally get to the Prince, we come across the obvious problem. There is no way in hell we can get around this guy. Prince is thick. That said, he's slow and only does physical damage. Equipping a shield and jumping into his attacks will help remove the constant knockback damage, and with enough good timing and patience, he goes down without too much resistance. Moving on to the Coveted, it's almost not a fight. I had the effigy shield in tow just in case we got to that point, but honestly, the fight is over so fast that I don't even need it. The second ghost never even engaged. Got a double victory screen. That's weird. And 2 Coveted's ashes? What? Karstraw is Karstraw. Nothing to see there. The only thing of note is I had to fix my roll button for a hot minute just so I could double jump over to his arena. But don't worry, I still haven't rolled. It's a similar situation with Maul. The double jump is necessary just to reach her, but afterwards, no rolling is necessary. Just hold out your effigy shield, tank the hits, hit back, and repeat. Cran is next, and... wait a minute. I haven't done the left side of the map's bosses yet? Why the hell did I... So anyway, on through the Red Hall, I guess. This area is a complete pushover now. Sure, there's a few enemies I can't just roll past, but they go down in one combo. The traps themselves would have been a problem earlier in the game, but, well... onto the tree, I guess. It's really easy now as well. We're far too over-leveled for this portion of the game, and with the Phoenix shield in hand, we can block pretty much every attack he has to offer. Haggar's Cavern is up next. We can still take our shortcut without the use of rolls, so that works out well. And, much like the Red Hall, enemies here just don't stand a chance against our massive stats. The Husk is almost tricky, but can be tanked and destroyed with enough aggression. The Stench is... I don't even have the heart to talk about it. Anyway, are we all caught up? We good? Okay, we good. Moving on to the Witch. I can't quite carry the shield and the jaws at the same time without being over-encumbered, but we've got the silver shield. With a little luck we can... okay. Should have known better than to leave things to luck with the Witch. Attempt number 2 goes much better. Ashen Effigy makes all of our attacks essentially non-existent, and with a little switcheroo action, we're able to take her down pretty handily. These two, though. These two are going to be trouble. Or they would have been, had I not done this already on my pacifist run. The Ashen Effigy can actually tank through the Alchemist's bubbles, and with our upgraded jaws, the Unskinned is pretty easily taken care of. Never mind. I thought this fight was going to be hard. Moving on to the Forgotten King, we... Oh. Hey, an actual challenge! So, between the 3 of them, you get knocked around so much that you can't quite catch a breath and distance yourself and attack properly. So that's problem number 1. Problem number 2 is that I still haven't poured any points into endurance, so I can't hold my Ashen Effigy and my best weapons at the same time. And with the King's Kick coming out of nowhere at Mach speed, it's nearly impossible to pull the old switcheroo fast enough to do or avoid any damage.
Falcon Kick!
Now we could just hold out our shield and let the pacifist strats do all the work for us, but I don't have time for that kind of nonsense. Not again anyway. So instead, I just equip a base level spiked mace, hold out my shield, and attack whenever I can. It's a complete mess. The good news is that my mace, despite never being upgraded, actually does a solid amount of damage, so that's nice. The bad news is that despite having a weapon in combination with my shield, the King's Kick still catches me off guard sometimes, and I end up having to resort to red shards just to stay alive long enough to beat the 3 of them. That was definitely more interesting than it was supposed to be. I love it. Anyway, let's wrap this up, shall we? Scourge is Scourge. Trim a little off the top with the scissors, and either block or jump over his lightning breath, and presto changeo, no more Dragano. And last but not least, the Nameless God. This one is going to push us to the limit. We can do plenty of damage, and stunning him out of particular animations is easy enough, but the man hits hard. So hard that I decided to upgrade my shield to +5 just to compensate. And even then, he's still hitting me so hard that he forces me through a wall and murders me to death through suffocation. But with a little relearning, I eventually get down his tackle pattern and can dodge it consistently enough to punish him heavily for trying to choke me out. Well, kinda consistently. But hey, consistently enough to win. We trudge down the candlelit hallway, jump down through the well, and call it a day. So, can you beat Sultan Sanctuary without rolling? You sure can. It certainly makes some of the bosses more difficult, and depending on your pathing, you'll definitely find yourself struggling to get from A to B, with some of the larger enemies now becoming required fights. But this is by no means an ultra difficult challenge, and if you're looking for a way to spice up your gameplay, this is a nice and easy way to do it. Now if you'll excuse me, I'm going to turn the roll button back on and... Ah! Hey, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and feel free to join our little Discord server as well if you want to chat, vote for future runs, and just be alerted to the general goings-on of the channel. I've got other social media as well, links in the description, and I occasionally stream on Twitch whenever I'm not editing videos, so you can find a much less edited, much sleepier version of myself there, if that's your thing. I think the next video will be something a little different, just to spice things up a bit, so look forward to that, and don't worry, I haven't forgotten about the lore videos. Finally, a big shout out to my Patreon supporters, Lord Ham and Drum Smasher. The dream of owning a real microphone setup is slowly becoming a reality thanks to your generous contributions. You have my heartfelt thanks. And to show my heartfelt thanks, let's go ahead and do our monthly Patreon raffle. The raffle prize is different each month, but January's raffle allowed the winner to pick a piece of content that I create for the channel. So let's see who gets to increase my suffering today, shall we? Mr. Ham! Congratulations, my dude! What content are we making today?
He says it was really blasphemous.
What the hell is a blasphemous? We'll figure it out later. And that's about it. Stay safe out there, wash your pillowcase, and I'll see you all soon.